Here are 5 signs you need new golf clubs, even if you don't think you do. Now, number 1, and I really don't want this for you, that lack of control on these short approach shots. You know, these wedges, the ones that get you out of trouble. If you're seeing the ball fly, land with less spin than you had before, then you need to start looking at your wedges. You need to be inspecting the grooves. How are they feeling? How are they playing? And just see around your strike points here, have they really gone very flat? Doesn't really matter along the top, but around the strike point here, have they gone very flat? Now, what you don't realize about these 5 points is they're probably going to be costing you shots out on the golf course. So with number 1, for 1 second, I'm not saying you need to go and buy new wedges. This could mean even buying second hand. Just ones that are in a lot better condition than you have right now. Okay, that's point 1. Now, I guess a gauge in terms of how often I would check these wedges. Number 1, check them right now after watching this video. But as a gauge of time, I would say every 2 years, most of us are probably going to need some new wedges. Obviously, this will depend on what sort of courses you play, how often you're playing, and sort of where you're striking the golf ball. But yeah, please check, because if you're not getting that control on those spin shots, then you're going to find it hard to get the ball close. Okay, number 2, the next one has to be this. Inconsistent distance control. And what I mean by this, the ball constantly flying longer or shorter than it usually does. Now, this may mean that your game's progressing quickly and you've outgrown your irons. So that can mean a couple of things in terms of outgrowing irons. Oh, straight down the banner, baby. That is a mega shot. I didn't even see that finish. I can't hit a better shot, but I didn't see it finish. What? It could mean the shafts have gone a little bit too whippy, so therefore they're flexing at the wrong point. The lofts of your current irons could have gone a little bit too strong, because we see that. And we know on a lot of strong, forgiving irons, we can sometimes start powering that golf ball through the green. So in a nutshell, it means you could be really progressing. I would also add to this, dispersion. Whoa, honey of a hit again. Like, if you're starting to miss the shots more frequently left and right of target, again, it could be those shafts not quite flexing at the right point, complementing your swing. So I'm looking at this point number 2 as a positive point. You could be hitting it longer and shorter because the clubs aren't right for you. But you could also look at this as slightly negative. If you started to lose distance randomly, become way less accurate, these clubs could be too hard for you to hit. So you've got to look at it in both ways and shape and form. And I think to weigh that up, it's how much are you playing, how much are you practicing, and what scores are you shooting. Like, if your scores are going up, but you're constantly blasting it over greens and striking it well, then you know you're probably in the category of, okay, maybe I've outgrown these irons. But if you're constantly misstriking the irons, getting yourself into trouble, probably a shorter and wider dispersion, then maybe a new set of irons is really going to help you improve your game. Something that's a little more forgiving. Now, when I say new, I don't mean go out and spend thousands. It could be a second-hand set, but just something that's more suited to you. So look at this one right here, and look at these shots. Distance control, absolutely spot on. And I know that because I've been fitted for these irons. But like I said, if you're constantly flying over greens, maybe the lofts are too strong, the shafts are a little weak, so they're kicking at the wrong point. But it all comes down to the big word, consistency. If it's not happening regularly on the good strikes and you're seeing the ball fly along, then it goes shorter and you think, oh, that was struck well, and you're seeing differences in that shot dispersion and distance control, then it's time to think of new irons, whether that's the game's regressed or the game's moving in a much better place. Okay, this next one, I'm a little unsure on, but I think we should include it. Visual damage. Now, I'm a little unsure on this, but I get for some people, it means a lot. If the crown of your driver, and I would say this probably only really applies to driver and possibly putter, maybe even fairway woods, it's starting to get a little too damaged. And I would say the culprit areas are across this area here, where potentially we could hit a few off the roof, and then maybe it's time to get a new one. But again, as I say, I'm very cautious with that because I realize this isn't going to affect the overall performance of your club. But number 3 in our list is going to be overall visual damage. Oh, a little bit left on that. I said before in a previous video, the shaft's a little whippy, and that's a prime example of point number 2. Now, number 4 on our list doesn't necessarily mean a new set of woods or a new set of irons. I'm talking about grips. Has your grip gone shiny? Has it started to wear and you'll feel like your hands are slipping when you're hitting a shot out of thick rough or just a shot in general? Then I would really be looking at grips. I think this is an absolute killer for so many club golf. We don't want to spend money on them, but think about it. It's like your steering wheel to your shot. It's your only point of contact with the golf club. So please make sure you check your grips. Go and do that now. Now, looking at these 4 right now, are there any that's sticking out to you? Are you a golfer who's looking at this going, okay, my short shots aren't spinning as much. My distance control is very inconsistent. I'm either blasting over greens or my ball's going much lower. Then it's maybe needing to look at irons or possibly a new driver. Now I need you to look at this point. This is really key. And this is all about losing distance off the tee. Now this can mean a few things. This can mean either you progressed so quickly, you've outgrown shaft, loft, head design. It could also mean your game has regressed. We've got a little bit older, we're losing speed. Both are going to cost you and both will result in less distance. A little bit out on the right. So I guess you're probably thinking, what are some telltale signs that you need to look out for? Well, let's start off on the positive. If you've outgrown your drive, what you will be seeing is the ball probably be launching very high, very spinny, and you'll start seeing erratic shots that somehow go way off to the left or way off to the right. Essentially, your shaft can't support your swing speed. Therefore, the shaft has a lot of flexion at impact and can present itself very differently. Other things you've got to be looking for is the simple fact that your head could also be too forgiving. For example, you could be in a high spinning head right now, or you then might need to go into a low spinning head because you've improved your club head speed. This can all be changed with the right shaft and having the right head combination. Now, the opposite, if your game is slightly regressing, you might be seeing the golf ball go way shorter. Not as much in the air, spin far too low. And I would always say if a club is too hard for us, and what I mean by that, not forgiving enough, and I'm talking loft and shaft, we'll start seeing the ball probably launch low and go way off to the right. We'll struggle to get it in the air. It will feel like you're probably wielding a sledgehammer. So look at those telltale signs with driver. Essentially, if you've outgrown it, it'll be launching too high, spinning too much, and we'll go good strikes, be erratic for no real answer. Having something stiffer will be way more stable. And if it's going low, predominantly off to the right for a right-hander and off to the left for a left-hander, then it's time to look for something different. That is my super quick guide, 5 reasons why you possibly need new golf clubs, even though you think you didn't. It's not always technique. Having the right equipment is really key to lowering your scores. Thanks for watching.